let's jump right into this explainer because today we're uncovering the gripping history behind one of Indonesia's absolute most mysterious and completely untouchable artifacts. We are exploring the legend of Watu Weti. It's a relic that's literally entrenched in the history and spirit of the Manggarai region. Really, it's a story of survival, cultural memory, and a stone that has silently watched generations rise, fall, and rebuild. We're bypassing the pleasantries today and starting right with the stakes. If you try to move Watu Weti, you'll face consequences. Bad things will happen to you. So this isn't just some passing superstition for the locals. It is a profound, intensely respected warning, and honestly, it's successfully protected the site from interference for generations. No one, and I mean absolutely no one, dares to test it. Before we get too deep into the danger and the history, we really need to ground ourselves in the architecture of this culture. We have to look at the traditional stone altar where this object actually sits. It's called a kampung. And in Manggarai culture, a kampung isn't just some random pile of rocks. It is the sacred central gathering point of the entire community. It's upon this very specific traditional altar that the historic Watu Weti stone securely rests, acting as the absolute focal point of the community's physical and spiritual layout. There's an ancient local phrase here, and it translates to a pretty stunning fact. Absolutely no one knows who first discovered or placed this stone on the hill. Its origins are just a complete mystery. The community knows it's powerful, they know it has literally always been there, but the exact historical moment of its arrival? Well, that detail has been completely lost to time. Which brings us to the number one. You see, the ancestors passed down this really powerful reminder that Watu Weti is the first and only one of its kind. There are 0 duplicates, no secondary stones like it anywhere. This absolute singularity makes it the ultimate silent witness to the region's history. It stands totally unique in its importance to the local people. Part 1. Peace in Kampung Ting, the first village. Let's use our imaginations like a time machine for a second and flash back to the very origins of the people who revere this stone. They lived in a settlement called Kampung Ting, widely known as the very first village in the area. In those early days, life here was completely harmonious. The community was defined by deep unity, incredible resilience, and just an unwavering respect for the customs passed down by the wise elders. They had this really strong tradition of helping one another out. Through that cooperation and adaptability, they created a thriving environment where their cultural identity was rich and well-preserved. But unfortunately, that peace was abruptly shattered. Shocking news arrived of an imminent enemy attack. It was a harsh reality that's actually captured perfectly in their traditional language. I mean, just imagine the panic setting in, right? The peaceful, unified life they had carefully built over so many generations was suddenly thrust to the absolute brink of total destruction. The threat was real, and it was right at their doorstep. So the crucial point here is how the villagers reacted. They totally refused to let fear break their unity. Instead, they executed a desperate survival strategy. First, making the agonizing choice to abandon their peaceful home to avoid destruction. Next, fleeing to build a defensive stronghold at Golo Kelly. And finally, aiming to establish a brand new, permanent settlement in Kampung Racha. Part 2. Fleeing the enemy threat. The stronghold of Golo Kelly. This brilliantly illustrates the jarring contrast between their harmonious past and the harsh, fortified reality they had to adopt just to survive. On one side, you have Kampung Ting, which was built for peace and community living. But on the other hand, Golo Kelly wasn't a village of choice. It was a defensive survival stronghold built exclusively to keep enemies at bay. They essentially had to trade their open, cultural living for defensive walls, pretty much overnight. Lo si wan bio Golo Kelly, this phrase commemorates that incredibly perilous journey. It marks the heavy, genuinely sorrowful moment they had to leave behind the only home their ancestors had ever known. Fleeing into the hills to build defenses marked a massive, massive transformation in their lives and in their cultural memory. Part 3. Rebuilding in Kampung Racha, a new beginning. Fortunately, that enemy threat eventually subsided. The original village of Kampung Ting was gradually abandoned, falling completely into disuse. But the community's spirit never wavered as they set out to rebuild and create a new beginning. Their incredible resilience spans centuries. We see a people completely transformed, from an era of ancient peace, surviving through a temporary fortress era during colonial times, to ultimately rebuilding into a thriving, modern existence in Kampung Racha. It's just a remarkable historical arc of survival. Through relentless hard work, perseverance, and unity, the village of Kampung Racha continues to flourish today. It's a triumph proudly declared right there in local tradition.
They didn't just survive the threat, you guys. They adapted and they truly flourished.
Part 4. The Untouchable Legacy. The Enduring Stone.
Okay, so now we circle back to the beginning to recontextualize the mysterious Watu Weti stone. Because while the people were going through this massive transformative historical arc, the stone watched silently over this entire epic journey. I mean, think about the sheer scale of time here. While generations of villagers fled their homes, while they built temporary mountain fortresses, and while they eventually established entirely new permanent cities, this stone remained unmoved. It's been deeply rooted since at least the Dutch colonial period and Mongarai, and likely much, much longer. It is the one physical constant in a history defined by drastic upheaval.
Ultimately, we can see that Watu Weti is fiercely protected not just out of a fear of curses, though, let's be honest, that certainly keeps it safe, but because it's the physical anchor for their entire cultural identity and history of survival. It's tangible proof that their original home, Kampung Ting, really existed. It stands as a daily physical reminder of the struggles, the sacrifices, and the incredible unity that allowed their ancestors to survive against all odds.
Which brings us to this incredibly powerful modern vow. Until the day Watu Weti is no longer here, no one may disturb it. This isn't just a rule about a rock, right? It is an enduring commitment by the living community. It ensures that the sacrifices of their ancestors and the profound lessons of unity they left behind will be cherished and protected forever. To disturb this stone would literally be to disrespect the very foundation of their survival.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a bit of a provocative thought. What is the Watu Wati of your own family's history? Like, if your community had to flee tomorrow, what single object would you leave untouched to stand as the silent witness to your story? It's really fascinating to consider how physical objects in our own lives anchor the intangible stories of our heritage. Take a moment to think about that, and keep seeking out those incredible stories of resilience that are anchored all around us.